In this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this long sleeve cowl dress. I'm making it for someone, so guys, you can make yours into a long one, but this person wants their own to be midi, like just below the knee, but it's still the same method. The whole thing is just to explain how you can get a long sleeve with it, and you can just extend yours a little bit. Like if you want it to be up to your ankle, you can just add to the length. Every other thing is just the same. So what we're going to start with is basically to fold your fabric into two. So I have my back panel. If you see, this side is the folded part, right? If you see, this side is the folded part. I have my back panel on fold, the front panel on fold, right? And then this part here is the part with all the ends. There are 4 of them here. 1, 2, this one, there's 1, 2, 3 and 4, because they are all on a fold, right? So now the next thing I'm going to do here is to take my tape and mark from the measurements I need here is basically from the shoulder to the hip, which is 25, and then I mark that here. This is this straight line here, and then from the shoulder to the knee, which is 40 for her, and then from the shoulder, now if you're making it into a maxi dress, right, you're going to now put the shoulder to the end of the dress, right? The end of the dress for me is going to be somewhere at 44, which is here, but if it was a longer version, it will still go down maybe to 59 or 60 or whatever. So guys, that's basically it for the length. So now for the width, how you're going to calculate it, since we're trying to make it into a long sleeve, how you're going to calculate it is first, how you're going to fold the fabric for the width is your shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement divided by 2, her shoulder is 14, divided by 2 is going to be 7, right? Your normal basic shoulder for her is going to be 7, which is here, right? I've marked that. And then from that point now, you're going to insert the sleeve length. That's from your shoulder to the end of your sleeve, right? The shoulder to the end of the sleeve, where you want it to be. So for her, that is going to be about 23 or so. So 23 is what it's going to be. So mark that here. Guys, remember, this is still going to have a cuff, but if you look at the end of the cuff, you'll find that it's like, so guys, to get this drapiness, like the end of the cuff is draping before you get to this narrow part that is attached to it. So to get this drapey part, I'm going to just use her total full sleeve length and still go back in and add this cuff. That will add to the length of the sleeve, so that once I add this cuff at the end here, this part, the sleeve that is coming down, will now just drape on top of the cuff, if that makes sense. So there's a cuff here, and then I measured her shoulder to the end of the sleeve, so that when I put in that cuff, let's say maybe 4 inches cuff, it will now pull the sleeve up, and then the body of the sleeve will drape down on top of it and just flow. So that's why I'm using her total sleeve length. So basically, how you're going to calculate this is just to insert your shoulder measurement divided by 2, add that here, maybe it's 16 divided by 2, 8, and then you go back in and add your full sleeve length. That's from your shoulder to the cuff. That's basically it. So now that we've done that, let's go back in and start to insert all the measurements we need. So everything else from here is just easy once you've gotten how to fold and how to mark every other thing. So I'm just going to come down here, mark 1 inch of shoulder slope, and then I'm going to connect it to the end of this part here. So at this point here, you're going to mark 3 inches of neck width, your basic neck width, right? So mark 3 inches here from this end to this end, and then you're going to, once you've marked it, so guys, you see, you're going to mark your 3 inches of neck width, which I've marked here, and then you're going to come down here by 1 inch and connect it to this point here, right? And remember, this other line that we have here is just our shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is here, and then the extension of our sleeve, which is from this point of our shoulder measurement to the end. So now after that, the next thing we are going to mark now is from the top here. You're going to mark the opening you want your sleeve to have after you've come down here by 1 inch. So I decided to do 15 inches, which is somewhere here. So I'm going to mark that. And on this line, I'm going to come in by, let's say, 1.5 or so, or 1 inch. Just come in here by 1 inch or so, because I need to have a cutoff at where I'm going to insert the sleeve opening, right? So I did 1 inch coming in here. And then after that, the next thing you're going to do is on this, your knee line, on this knee line here. Remember, the next line we have after that is from your shoulder to your hip, which is somewhere here at 25 for me, right? Let me just mark it so you guys can see, because I don't know if the previous chalk was visible enough. So this is my shoulder to my hip, and then the shoulder to my knee, right? The next line is supposed to be your shoulder to the end of your dress. So on your shoulder to your knee, on this point now, you are going to take your hip measurement divided by 4. Her hip measurement is 52, sorry. So divided by 4 is going to be 13. So 13, instead of using that 13, and you're going to take that measurement, insert it on your knee, and then at the bottom of the dress. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add extra 2 inches to it. So her hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra 2 is what I'm going to do. So guys, if you're making it on a maxi dress, take this measurement also, insert it like on a long dress, insert it at the end of that dress. So but I'm going to insert it on her knee line, and then I'm also going to insert it at the end of my dress, because this is where my dress will end, right? This is my own end of the dress line here. So some people would normally now connect from this point to this point and get your cowl curve, but I want to take her own up a little bit, like let's say 3 inches from here, because I don't want it directly at the knee. So I'm going to take it up by 4 inches, this straight line. I'm going to take it up a little bit more, and then now I'm going to just connect from here up to this point like this. So guys, that's basically all you have to do. So all I'm doing now is just to cut from here to this point and then out. But for the next, so you see all the lines you've connected here. If this was a maxi dress, this line would have gone down a little bit more, up to like 60 inches of the dress length. But now this is what I'm working with, because it's a short one, it's just below the knee. So now I'm going to go ahead and start to cut the neckline. So first I'm going to mark 1 inch of the back neckline. And you know her front neckline has this keyhole neckline. So I'm going to come down 1 inch for the back and 3 inches for the front. I'm doing 3 by 3 for the front. And guys, as you can see, this one has a collar, right? It has a collar, like a turtleneck collar on it, and then it has this keyhole neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and insert about 5 inches opening here. So I'm just going to mark from, after marking my 1 inch of the back neckline, let me cut it so I don't confuse you guys. You see, I'm cutting the back neck on the 2 of them, right? And then I'm going to separate one for the front neckline, which is this one. I can go ahead and cut this, but before cutting it, I'm just going to go ahead and mark from this point now, insert 5 inches or so. It depends on you how wide you want your opening to be. Let's say I do 5.5 or so here, and then I'm going to just come from this point now and just, so guys, after that I marked 5.5 here, and just give it a curve with your own. You can just curve it this way, or you can curve it into this line like this. It depends on you how you want yours to be. So after that now, I'm just going to cut this part out. Just take it this way, cut it out to get that keyhole neckline, right? And then I'm also going to go ahead and cut out the 3 inches of neckline. This is going to have a collar. So after that, I'm also going to separate the back in a straight line down, so that I can be able to, so that her head can pass through it, right? So I'm just going to cut it down. You can do the same length you have in front, this one, but I'm going to use facing to turn this one over. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this part, and then cut every other thing out. So guys, this is what it looks like now. So what I'm going to do, I've cut from here to here and stopped here. So for the back, I cut out this straight piece here, this straight piece, because I'm going to use this. You see where the opening stops, right? I'm going to use this as a facing. I'm just going to place it on this here, sew the whole neckline this way and turn it inside out. But for the front, how I'm going to do the front now is that I'm going to cut a facing for it. So this particular one, I can't just use bias to run it. So I'm just going to take my fabric, fold it into 2. The fabric I cut out from the side, I'm just going to fold it into 2 this way and cut something that looks exactly like this neckline in front, right? And use it to turn it over. So you see, I folded this into 2. So guys, you see, I folded this into 2. So now we are talking about the front neckline, right? So you see, I took this fabric here, folded it into 2. And then what I'm going to do, you see, is like this. So let me open it so you guys can see. This here, folded it into 2. And then I'm going to just take it this way and use it to place it underneath like this. So place it under this here. And I'm going to use it as, to to be able to turn over this neckline. So I'm going to cut the same opening here. So just place it so that it's equal. So guys, you see I've cut this part out. I just traced out this same opening here. So I need this just for this second part, because this upper part is still going to have the collar. So I don't need this part here. So all I have to do now is just to take this out and then trace about 3 inches round like this. Just 3 inches round this opening like this. From here, just this way. So that I know this is the part I need. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out also. I'm going to just open this up and use it to turn this over. So once I open this up now, this way, I'm going to place this also this way. And then place it right side facing each other this way. Let me open it well. And then I'm going to sew it round and turn it inside out. That way I've finished up this neckline part, right? And then we'll come back and do the collar. We've gone ahead and finished the back placket, and then the front, all we did was this thing that we used to turn it over, like I said. So once I finished it, I tucked it in and ironed it. I'll still tack this down with needle and thread, but in the meantime, this is what we're working with. So this is basically it at this point here. So just tuck this in, and then you have your neckline like this. We'll still have our band to go around this neckline, the collar. So but now that this is done, I'm going to move over to the sleeve. So you're going to go ahead and sew the shoulder close, right? You see, you're going to use 1/2 inch to sew it close. If I open the center now, you'll see there's a seam all over on the inside. I sewed the shoulder close on the inside like this with this 1/2 inch seam, and then on the 2 sides of the shoulder I joined it, and then you see I've done one side of the sleeve, so I can show you the other one. So basically all I did, this is what the sleeve looks like, right? And you guys know that our sleeve is supposed to end at this point, right? All this part here, that 15 inches that we used is just for the opening of the sleeve, and then we came in here by 1 inch or 1.5 before the curve of the curl sleeve, right? So all this part here is going to fit into the curve. So you can go ahead and measure what your round your curve is, and then you can add 1 inch to it if you want it a little bit free, or you can just use the extra 1 inch. Let's say the one I'm working with is 8. I added 1 inch, 1/2 inch extra to it, so that's 8.5, and then 1 inch of sewing allowance. That is because I need 1/2 inch to close this edge here. So this is what it looks like. I closed 1/2 inch on one side, and then the other 1/2 inch on the other side. And before closing so guys, one side I just sewed it close, right? I just folded the fabric, sewed close one side, and then the other side of it, I just took this thing and put it in between. I made this strap with the same fabric, like 1 inch, folded it and sewed it. So I used one of these here to put inside, like 2 inches. Like I cut 2 inches like this, and then fold that 2 inches into 2, and then put it inside of this as I was closing up one side. So once I flip this out, now guys, you can even iron in stay to help your own hold stronger, but I just folded the fabric a little bit thicker to help give the band some strength. But you can iron in your stay to help it feel like a cuff. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just to open it up. Now once I open it up, you see the edge of this thing that I sewed in, right? You see, this is it here. And guys, another thing you can do is you can even use a stretchy fabric as your cuff. All you have to do is just to, let's say this is the stretchy fabric, right? You cut out your stretchy fabric, and all you have to do is you can go ahead and sew it close, right? Let's say you cut out a stretchy fabric like this, and then you sew it close on one side this way. You just take it the way it is, sew it close, and then you fold it into 2 now, and that will be your casing. And then you use this edge to join it around the cuff, and you can make it into a stretchy one. It depends on you. So, but now what we are going to do now is I already went ahead and used 1/2 inch and sewed in my I sewed this down so that I can be able to, I ran this stitch so I can be able to pull in to make a girder, right? So if you see, I'm going to use this now to make a girder that will fit inside of this, because I need to girder it. And just go to your sewing machine and set it in such a way that you're trying to run a girder stitch. So guys, now that I've done this, I'm going to go ahead and mark where the center is, right? So I know where the center is, which is the shoulder, where the tip of this shoulder is. I'm going to fold this into 2, so I can also find the center, which is somewhere here, so that I can be able to distribute this, so that I know that once as I'm sewing it, So guys, this mark that I made now will help me know that half of this is going into this side, half of this is going into the other side. So the demarcation is just the shoulder seam. So I'm just going to place halfway through where half of this is on top of this shoulder seam here, which is where my hand is now. Place it this way and sew it down this way all the way to this side. All this side will fit into this side of the cuff, using half an inch to sew it down, and then all this side will fit into this side. But once I get to the edge here, before I close it up into the edge, right, I'm going to fold this edge this way. Like, don't leave it open this way, because you still use this part as a seam allowance to close this inside. So before that, bring this in, fold it halfway like this. Once you start to sew it into this cuff, and then you continue to sew all the way around. And once I finish sewing it, I'm going to now use the other side of the cuff to cover it and sew it down. So guys, you see I've sewn this down this way. So all I have to do now is to use this part to cover it this way. So put this back down this way and then sew it down. So guys, you see the side I've done, you see what it looks like, and this is still going to close up like this, and then it's going to drape down. If I pull my hand down, you see it's going to drape on top. So guys, now the other side, so how you're going to close it once you finish that is just to go ahead and sew it close. Instead of So guys, what I'm going to do now for this side, as I've finished now, guys, remember, like I said, you're supposed to fold it in on the edge. So I'm going to extend that fold a little bit more by 1 inch down. That fold that I made before sewing this, I'm going to just sew that inch a little bit down, like 1 inch or so, before I then close up my seam. Let me show you guys from this side. So what I'm saying is try to sew it down a little. You see what I did here? I continued that stitch a little bit inwards more before I now made a side stitch to go down, because if you sew it directly on this end of this cuff and just start to close the seam here, your hand will not pass through this opening. No matter what, your hand, it will be too tight for your hand to pass through here, because the whole purpose of the cuff to have button is just so that you can be able to open it up and pass your hand. So even if the opening is at this point and the point of this edge of this cuff is still closed, your hand will still not fit in, and when you wear it, it will be too tight. So that's why you need to sew it down a little bit more, like sew like 1 inch away from this opening, so it has more room still before you now start to close up your seam. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see I've closed up this side seam now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on this side, close up this side seam, fold my hem the edge, and then we'll come back in and put in the collar for the neckline. So guys, now the next thing we have to do, since we've closed up the side and finished up the end, all we have to do is to go ahead and measure around your neckline. Remember that this point here would have 1 inch opening, because you took away half an inch when you folded this side and half an inch when you folded this side. So 1 inch opening is going to be missing at the tip of this keyhole. So I'm going to put that into consideration. And then I measured from here to the back, I have 7. From here to the back, I also have 7. So 7 plus 7 is 14. And then plus this 1 inch here is 15. And the opening of her neck is 15 inches. So I'm going to take this band here. It depends on you. You can go ahead and iron in stay on yours. Mine is 1.5 inches here. So in total, I folded 4 inches. And then I tucked in half an inch inside of it like this, and half an inch on both sides. And then I have 1.5 on the fold. So what I'm going to do now is just to take this side now, put it inside of this. You see, I already folded it and left this loop for the button like we did on the sleeve. I'm just going to take this, put it inside here, and sew it all the way around to the front. Getting to the front, I'm going to just sew only on this, close up like 1 inch, I'm going to skip 1 inch as I'm sewing, getting to the front, skip 1 inch opening here, and then move over to this other side, put this inside of it, and continue my stitch again all the way till I get to the back. Once I get to the back, I'm going to cut off the excess and close up the back, and that is going to be the side with the button, and this one is the side with the loop. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up that now and bring it back so you guys can see. This is it here. I've gone ahead and finished the neckline, so you see what it looks like. Like I said, you skip 1 inch in between here, and that is how you're going to just sew the band on itself here, and then fix this inside and continue on that side. So you see, I finished it, and then I decided to use this gold button for her, even on the sleeves too. I decided to just put it, since the fabric is quite plain. So that's basically it, and this is the body of the dress. This is what the back looks like here. And yeah, thank you guys so much for your time, and I'll see you in my next one. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.